My name is Tasha Hubbard. I'm a Cree woman from Treaty 6 territory and Treaty 4 territory. I'm an adoptee. I grew up with a farm family in southern Saskatchewan. I'm also a professor. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a writer. And I'm a mom. I remember the day that Coulten was killed. It wasn't immediately apparent what happened. I just knew that he'd been killed. And then when it unfolded in the media in the following days, I happened to be traveling with my son and my nephew. And I think it was just the randomness of it. It was just like how quickly it escalated to violence and to violence that ended in death. And it shook my world. It really did, because it really hit home that that can happen, and that can happen in our territory, where we should be able to be, traveling through safely. And then my dad came to visit me, my Cree dad, with his wife, and she's related to the family of Coulten. And, it was all anyone was talking about. And we talked about it, and I told them I'm going to write about it. And they said, "You're a filmmaker. You should make a film about it." Well, all summer we've been traveling to different places across Saskatchewan to explore how Coulten Boushie's death, how Gerald Stanley's acquittal has reverberated amongst our territory, and having conversations that sometimes people don't like to have around the history of, and I'll say the mythology of the prairies and how the prairies were settled. So, when we look into that mythology, this territory was seen as sort of empty land and promised land. And what was erased was indigenous presence.
We just gotta pray that they go into it with an open mind and see the evidence and the truth for themselves.
Yeah. Pretty early on, Jade and Debbie in particular, even through living with their grief, understood that, this issue is so wide, in its reach and scope, and how Coulten's death has affected so many. And so, their willingness to participate in the film, but also, the way that they've made themselves public and, doing media interviews. I mean, none of that is easy. But I think they want Coulten's death to not be in vain. And as Jade said once, he's not here to speak for himself. And at the end of the day, she just wishes people could meet him and get to know him. And, that's been taken. So at the very least, let's make some change here in a system that's long been due for change. And, they've been pretty tireless in pushing for that.
I recommend that the Special Rapporteur and the expert mechanism undertake a study on the systemic racism and discrimination against Indigenous people within the judicial and legal systems in Canada.
I think what I want people to do is to have those uncomfortable conversations, to think about the prejudice and the bias that they carry with them. And so, I'd want people to really think about that. And it's not easy, but it's what has to happen. And I hope the film pushes people to reflect on that, to think about what is justice, and is it just and fair the way this land was settled, and the policies that were put in place that isn't the far history. This is recent stuff that continues on. The biases that exist in our systems, to not accept those, to not say, well, that's just the way it is. Things change. There just needs to be the will to change them.